The water sparkles under the afternoon sun, a flawless turquoise sheet that ripples with the soft summer breeze. My pool, my personal oasis. After years of grinding, climbing corporate ladders, and proving myself twice over in rooms where I was the only black man present, I finally bought this house. I finally have this space, this peace. Oakridge Estates wasn't exactly rolling out the welcome mat when I moved in. It's the kind of neighborhood where people pretend to be friendly but lock their doors when they see me jogging past. Where I get asked, "Oh, which house do you work at?" rather than assuming I own property here. It's subtle, always polite, always with a smile. And leading the passive-aggressive brigade is Karen Whitmore. She never says anything outright, of course. No, she's too good for that. She just makes sure I get reminders about HOA guidelines, ones that somehow don't apply to the retired white couples with weeds taller than my nephews. She accidentally forwards emails about community standards. She makes suggestions about how I can better fit into the neighborhood. Translation: know your place. But I let it slide. I'm not here to make waves. I lean back in my chair, sipping a cold glass of sweet tea, soaking in the kind of silence money can buy. Birds chirp, leaves rustle. And for once, there's no email, no meeting, no HOA complaint to deal with. Then I hear it.
Splash.
It's soft at first, almost like I imagined it. Then another. And a low, satisfied hum. I sit up, my brow furrowing. The pool gate is locked. No one else has the code. No one should be. And then I see her, drifting across my pool on a bright pink flamingo float, oversized sunglasses perched on her nose, a wine glass dangling from her fingers.
Karen.
Lounging, like she owns the place. For a second I just stare. I must be hallucinating. Heatstroke, maybe? But no, she stretches out, taking up space like it's her God-given right, tilting her head back as if she belongs here. Something inside me tightens. I stand, stepping closer to the edge of the patio. My voice is calm, sharp as a blade. "Excuse me?" Karen barely lifts her head, just lazily waves a hand, the kind of dismissive gesture you give to a waiter, not a homeowner. "Oh, hey. I didn't think you'd be home." The audacity. The unmitigated gall. She's trespassing, breaking and entering, sitting in my pool. And she doesn't even look guilty. She takes a sip of wine, sighing like she's in a five-star resort. "Relax. It's just water." I clench my jaw. "Oh, Karen. You have no idea what's coming." Karen doesn't move, doesn't scramble, doesn't apologize. She just basks in my sun, floating in my pool, like this is the most natural thing in the world. I step forward, my shadow cutting across the water. "You mind telling me why you're in my backyard?" She sighs dramatically, finally peering over her sunglasses. "Oh, don't be so uptight. It's just a pool. You weren't using it." I blink. Did I mishear her? "You do realize this is private property, right?" I say, my voice measured. Karen waves a dismissive hand. "Technically, all property in Oakridge is subject to HOA oversight." I let that sit in the air between us. She's not just breaking the rules, she's rewriting them as she goes. "I own this house. I own this pool," I say slowly, just to make sure we're speaking the same language. Karen tilts her head, that infuriating smirk never slipping. "And I own the authority to enforce community regulations." A sharp chill runs through me despite the heat. That's what this is about. She's not just trespassing, she's claiming control. I step closer, lowering my voice.
"Get out."
She exhales through her nose, like I'm the one being unreasonable. Then, with exaggerated effort, she kicks off the float and glides to the pool's edge.
Slow.
Unbothered, like she's doing me a favor. Dripping water, she climbs out, adjusting her floral cover-up like she's leaving a spa retreat. "You really should be more neighborly," she says, flicking her wet hair over her shoulder. This pool was empty all morning. She steps past me, heading for the back gate. But before she leaves, she pauses, looks me up and down. That smirk deepens. "You do know that unauthorized modifications to a property can be reported, right?" A warning, A threat. And then she's gone, disappearing through the gate like she owns that too. I stand there, fists clenched, heart hammering. Because here's the thing, I have been modifying my property. Nothing illegal. Nothing against HOA guidelines. But I've been making changes, upgrades she never approved. I installed new pool lights last week. I'm planning a deck extension. And my backyard cameras? Just installed last night. She shouldn't know about any of it. But she does. My stomach twists. The way she spoke, the way she knew, it wasn't random. She's been watching, monitoring, looking for a reason to tighten her grip. This wasn't just a casual dip in the water. It was a message. And I just got the first warning shot. I don't sleep that night. I toss, turn, replay every second of Karen's little invasion. The way she smirked, the way she knew about my property upgrades, like she'd been keeping tabs on me. Watching, waiting for a reason to pounce. By morning, my inbox has a new HOA violation notice. Subject: urgent, unauthorized pool modifications. I stare at the email, jaw tightening. The audacity. The nerve. I open the attachment and sure enough, it's a formal complaint. Dear homeowner, it has come to our attention that modifications have been made to your pool without HOA review. Failure to comply with community standards may result in penalties, including fines or legal action. Legal action. Over pool lights. I clench my teeth so hard my jaw aches. She didn't just trespass, she used it as reconnaissance. And now she's fabricating violations to make my life hell.
Fine.
If she wants to play dirty, I'll play smarter. I pull up my security footage. Last night was the first time I activated my new backyard cameras, and I thank God for my paranoia. I rewind until I find it, 9:42 a.m. The moment Karen saunters into my yard, looks around like she's inspecting her property, then waltzes straight into my pool like she's stepping into a luxury resort. I lean back, exhaling sharply.
Gotcha.
I forward the footage to the HOA board with a polite, pointed email. Subject: trespassing incident. HOA board review request. Dear HOA board, I am writing to report an incident that occurred on my property on date. HOA President Karen Whitmore entered my backyard without permission and used my private pool. This is a clear violation of privacy and property rights. Please see the attached footage for verification. I trust the board will address this matter appropriately. Looking forward to your response. I hit send, satisfaction curling in my chest. Let's see her talk her way out of this. 2 hours later, a sharp knock rattles my front door. I don't even check the peephole. I already know who it is. I open it to find Karen standing there, lips pursed, sunglasses perched on her head like a crown. Behind her, 2 board members, white men in their 60s, their expressions carefully neutral. May we come in? She asks, voice all honey and venom. I fold my arms. We can talk right here. Karen smiles like I just played into her hand. There seems to be a misunderstanding. The HOA board has reviewed your complaint, and we've determined that no violation occurred. I raise an eyebrow. No violation? She trespassed. One of the men clears his throat. According to Karen, she was conducting a routine compliance check. As HOA president, she's authorized to inspect properties for community standard violations. I let out a sharp laugh. Oh, so taking a swim is part of a compliance check now? Karen tilts her head, that smug little smile still plastered on her face. I was testing the water quality, ensuring it meets neighborhood standards. I swear, my vision goes red for a second. Water quality. One of the board members nods.
Yes.
And while we're here, we need to discuss your pool modifications. There it is. The real reason they came. Karen gestures toward my backyard. I couldn't help but notice your new lighting setup. Per HOA regulations, all exterior lighting changes must be reviewed. You didn't submit a request. I stare at her. You mean the same lighting 3 other houses on this street installed? The ones you approved? Silence. Then Karen clicks her tongue. Well, we can't let previous oversights set a bad precedent. I exhale slowly. She's not just moving the goalposts, she's building a whole new damn field. I glance at the two board members, watching their body language. They're not here for fairness. They're here to back their own. This isn't about pool lights. It's about control. I grit my teeth. Fine. If she wants a fight, she's going to get one. I'll submit a request, I say, voice even. And in the meantime, I'll be escalating my complaint about the trespassing. Karen's eyes narrow slightly. She wasn't expecting that. I step forward, lowering my voice just enough. And if this doesn't get handled properly, I'll be taking it to actual legal authorities. The older board member shifts uncomfortably. The other clears his throat. Karen, though? She smiles. Oh, of course, she purrs. Do what you need to do. Then she turns, striding off like she won.
But she didn't see what I saw.
One of the board members hesitated. And hesitation? That's an opening. I'm about to rip it wide open. The HOA emergency meeting is held at the community clubhouse, a space that looks like it was ripped straight from a luxury real estate brochure, granite countertops, polished floors, and a chandelier that probably cost more than my first car. It's designed to impress, to intimidate. Karen is already seated at the head of the long mahogany table, flanked by the same two board members from before. More HOA members are present now, most of them white, most of them already whispering among themselves. They're not here for fairness. They're here for a show. And Karen? She's the ringmaster. I take my seat across from her, meeting her gaze head-on. She's practically glowing, leaning back in her chair like this is already over. Like I'm just here to be scolded before they tighten the noose. She clears her throat, looking down at a stack of papers. Let's begin. This meeting has been called to address multiple violations regarding unauthorized property modifications. I fold my hands on the table. I assume we'll also be discussing the trespassing incident. Karen doesn't blink. As I explained before, no trespassing occurred. I was performing my duties as HOA president. I tilt my head. By swimming. A few murmurs ripple through the room. Karen exhales, like she's dealing with a child who doesn't understand basic logic. I was ensuring the water quality was up to neighborhood standards, she repeats smoothly, as if saying it twice will make it true. And now, as for your unauthorized. I slide my phone across the table, the screen already playing. Security footage. Clear as day, Karen waltzing into my backyard. No clipboard, no inspection gear, just a bathing suit, a sun hat, and the kind of entitlement that should be a felony. Her smirk falters for the first time. I let the video play for everyone to see. The moment she lowers herself into my water, the way she leans back on the flamingo float, sipping her drink like she's on vacation. The murmurs grow louder. A couple of board members shift in their seats. I lean back, mirroring her earlier smugness. Looks less like a compliance check and more like trespassing, doesn't it? Karen recovers quickly, flipping through her papers. This doesn't change the fact that your modifications violated. You mean the same modifications that 3 other houses on this street have? I interject. Silence. I turn to the board members. Because I took the liberty of reviewing past HOA approvals. You approved the exact same lighting upgrades for other homes. The only difference? The homeowners weren't me. Karen's fingers tighten around her papers. That's not relevant. It's completely relevant, I say, my voice cutting through the room. Selective enforcement of HOA policies is called discrimination. A pin could drop. The tension is thick, shifting, turning. Karen knows it. I know it. And so do the board members who suddenly aren't making eye contact. Karen leans forward, voice sickly sweet. I understand you feel targeted, but let's not throw around baseless accusations. I smile. Oh, it's not baseless. I reach into my bag and pull out my final trump card, an attorney's letterhead. Karen's face goes pale. I consulted with a lawyer. I say casually. And it turns out unauthorized entry onto private property isn't just an ethics violation, it's a legal one. One of the board members clears his throat. Now, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Oh, I'm already ahead. I turn to Karen. See, If this was really about rules, my modifications would have been approved just like everyone else's. But this isn't about rules, is it? Karen stays silent. This is about power. I continue.
Control.
And making sure certain people in this neighborhood know their place. Karen's nostrils flare. That is completely racist. I finish for her. The word lands like a grenade. Somewhere, someone gasps. A few heads turn toward Karen, waiting for her response. But she has nothing, because we all know the truth. I let the silence stretch. Then, I drop the final nail in the coffin. I'll be pressing charges for trespassing, I say, my voice even. And if this discrimination continues, I'll escalate with legal action. Let's see how Oakridge Estates likes that kind of publicity. The shift is immediate. One of the board members straightens, eyes darting between me and Karen. The other suddenly looks very interested in the documents in front of him. Karen, for the first time, looks worried.
She should be.
Karen's jaw tightens. Her fingers curl against the stack of HOA documents, knuckles white. She's cornered, and she knows it. The room is dead silent, the weight of my words settling in the air like a thunderstorm about to break. Then she laughs. It's forced, brittle, the kind of laugh someone gives when they're drowning but trying to act like they meant to fall in. Pressing charges, she scoffs. Oh, please. Let's not be dramatic. She looks to the board members, searching for backup. But they're shifting uncomfortably, avoiding eye contact. One of them, the older one who had hesitated earlier, clears his throat. Well, now, he says, voice slow, careful. I think, given the circumstances, we should take this matter seriously. Karen whips her head toward him, eyes flaring. You can't be serious. I lean forward, lacing my fingers together. I am serious. And so is my lawyer. I tap the attorney's letter on the table, making sure everyone sees it. The footage clearly shows you trespassing, and I have multiple examples of discriminatory enforcement from this HOA. Karen shakes her head, forcing a dry chuckle. Oh, come on. You're really going to pull the discrimination card? I don't even blink. You mean the truth card? Murmurs spread through the room. This isn't just an HOA meeting anymore. It's a reckoning. Karen looks around, realizing the shift in energy. Her usual smokescreen tactics aren't working. The board is no longer blindly backing her. Some members are whispering to each other, and I catch a few uncertain glances thrown her way. For the first time, Karen is losing control, and I'm about to make sure she never gets it back. I slide another document across the table. This, I say, tapping the header, is a formal complaint I've already drafted for the State Housing Authority. It details the pattern of biased rule enforcement in Oakridge Estates. If this isn't resolved today, I'll be filing it tomorrow. Karen's face drains of color. This is ridiculous, she stammers. You can't just. I can. I cut in. And I will. She starts flipping through her documents, reaching for something, anything, to counter me. Her hands are shaking now. Then the door opens, and in walks Officer Daniels, a uniformed police officer. Karen's entire body goes rigid. Daniels nods at me before glancing around the room. Got a call about a trespassing incident, he says, voice casual but firm. Figured I'd stop by and see if we need to file a report. Karen's mouth opens, then shuts. Panic flickers across her face. I exhale slowly, then turn to Daniels. Glad you're here, officer. We were just discussing the trespassing incident involving HOA President Karen Whitmore. We have clear video evidence, and I was just informing the board of my intent to press charges. Daniels raises an eyebrow, looking from me to Karen. That right? Karen shoots out of her chair. This is a private HOA meeting, she snaps. You have no authority here. Daniels doesn't even flinch. Ma'am, trespassing is a criminal matter, and I have all the authority I need. Karen's hands ball into fists at her sides. This is absurd. I was doing a compliance check. That's my right as HOA president. Daniels tilts his head. Is that so? He turns to me. You got that footage? I hand him my phone. He watches for a moment, then lets out a low whistle.
Wow.
That's bold. Karen's face is crumbling now. She can see it, feel it. The walls closing in. This is harassment, she blurts out. This is reverse discrimination. Someone in the room actually laughs. A woman at the far end of the table, a newer board member, shakes her head. Karen, she says, voice dry. Just stop. Karen spins toward her, desperation creeping in. You're seriously taking a side? Do you know what this will do to me? And there it is. The mask fully slipping. This was never about rules. Never about the HOA. It was about her losing control, losing power, losing the ability to dictate who gets to belong here. Daniels sighs. Ms. Whitmore, are you aware that abusing HOA authority for discriminatory purposes can be grounds for a civil lawsuit? Karen freezes. That's not even counting criminal trespassing charges, Daniels continues. And if this footage gets out?
Phew.
That's bad press. Karen sways slightly, her perfect suburban armor cracking. Now, Daniels says, tucking his notepad away. If Mr. Carter here wants to proceed with charges, we can settle this downtown. The room is silent. Karen's throat bobs as she swallows hard. Then finally she looks at me. I can see it in her eyes. She's calculating, trying to figure out a way out of this. But there is no way out. Not this time. I lean back, watching her squirm. I could press charges, I say, dragging out the words. Or, she stiffens. I could settle for your immediate resignation as HOA president, I say smoothly. Effective immediately. Karen's mouth parts in shock. If you resign right now, I continue, I might reconsider filing. I tilt my head. Might. She hesitates. Looks at Daniels. Looks at the board. No one is coming to save her. Her kingdom is falling apart, brick by entitled brick. Finally, her shoulders slump. Fine, she chokes out. I nod. And one more thing. Her head snaps up. You'll send a written apology for harassment and discrimination to the entire HOA mailing list. Her nostrils flare. You're enjoying this, aren't you? I smile. I really am. And with that, Karen Whitmore, the once untouchable queen of Oakridge Estates, is done. 2 weeks later, Karen's name is everywhere. Not in the way she's used to. Not in the polished HOA newsletters or the neighborhood's Facebook group, where she once lorded over every post like a queen surveying her kingdom.
No.
Now, her name is attached to words like resignation, misconduct, discrimination, and trespassing charges. Because after she stepped down, I went ahead and filed anyway. Some people gasped. Some whispered about how I should just let it go. But letting things go is how people like Karen stay in power. So, I didn't. And when the local news picked up the story, complete with security footage of her floating in my pool, like she owned the place, let's just say her reputation sank faster than she ever did. The neighborhood reckoning. The HOA is in shambles. Board members who once blindly followed Karen are now scrambling, caught between trying to save face and pretending they totally weren't complicit in her nonsense. A few homeowners, the quiet ones, the ones who kept their heads down while Karen enforced her selective rules, start murmuring about all the fines, all the notices, all the strange ways some neighbors were always targeted while others weren't. It's funny how people suddenly grow a conscience when the person they were scared of loses power. At the next HOA meeting, now under new leadership, one of the members actually stands up and says it. We should have spoken up sooner. I don't say anything. I just let the silence sit. Let them feel it, because silence is how it started. And silence is what let it go on for so long. Karen's fall. Karen vanishes. For a while, at least. She stops showing up at community events. Stops posting in the Facebook group. Her house, once the picture-perfect model home of Oakridge Estates, goes up for sale. Word is, her husband insisted on moving after the scandal. Apparently, he's not as comfortable being the talk of the town as she was. The HOA elects a new president, someone who actually cares about the community instead of controlling it. Policies change. Fines and restrictions get reviewed. The petty power plays that used to define this neighborhood?
Gone.
Reclaiming my peace. One evening, I sit by my pool, watching the sunset. It looks different now. Not because the water's changed. Not because I turned it into jello, though, trust me, that idea is still on my bucket list.
No.
It's different because for the first time since I moved here, I can actually relax in my own space. No more harassment. No more fines for things that my neighbors get away with. No more entitled HOA presidents sneaking into my yard like they own it. Just peace. And it's mine. As I lean back in my chair, a voice calls out from across the fence. Hey, Carter. It's the woman from 2 doors down. The same one who used to avoid eye contact when Karen was around. She hesitates, then offers a small smile. We're having a barbecue this weekend. You should stop by. I pause, then nod. Because things are changing. And maybe, just maybe, this neighborhood can finally become what it was supposed to be. A community.